Hey guys, this is Pete from DIYMAN, and this is the second installment, the second episode of making our homemade lures. If you saw the first part, please go and check that out. In this one, what I did is I did the inserting of the through wire, I did the weighting of the lure, I inserted a lip, and I produced or added the base paint. Please check out what I did and enjoy. For the next part, we are going to use a sanding block. We have rounded the top and the bottom of this lure, but it's not perfectly rounded as we used the box cutter knife. As a result, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the sanding block with the 150 grain, and I'm just going to smooth it out. After that, I might even go over to something even finer, maybe a 220 or 240 grain sanding paper, and just smooth the whole surface over. Let's see. So what we will be doing is cutting open the lure in the middle. Remember, we initially just placed temporary glue on the back and on the front. The reason for that is we want to be able to open it up, have the two halves, and then be able to insert the wire into our lure. So the idea is that because of the balsa wood, we'll cut it open now, place the wire, squeeze it. Squeezing it would cause an indent because the wood is quite soft, and it would show me where the through wire will lie. And from that point onwards, we can just carve a small little groove and then permanently stick the two halves together. So let's see how that goes. So there we go. The lure is cut in half. You can see there is a little bit of the white glue residue left over. I don't think it will have too much of an effect, as after I have placed the through wire into it, I would actually put white glue across the entire body. So the idea now is quite simple. What we are going to do is we will place the through wire onto our lure, basically find its position. I would reckon that is quite a good spot. You can clearly see there's enough leeway on the front to connect the line. There's enough at the bottom where we will connect our little rings and the hooks, and also at the back. So from this point, what we'll now do is we'll now place the opposite part onto it. And the idea is simply to squeeze down relatively hard. By squeezing down nice and hard, it would create an indent, and that indent would actually afford us an opportunity to then see where the wire would be, and we would then be able to go and lay that out. There we go. That's a perfect example. You can very clearly see the pressed marks as it goes through this side, and the same on the other one. You can very clearly see where the indents are lying. So from that, I will now be able to make a small little groove and be able to then put the through wire into the lure and stick it together. Next up is quite simple. What I'm going to do is I am going to use some white glue, some craft glue, and I am going to make sure that I get all the spaces in between and on both sides, stick it together, and then let it dry. So let's get on with that. What we are going to do today is very simple. We are going to create a cavity at the bottom of the lure, and this is in order to place a small piece of lead into the lure. This will make sure that your lure is always staying upright with the heavier part at the bottom. So what I'm going to use is one of these little grinding tools. It makes the process just a lot quicker and easier, and hopefully I'll be able to create a nice little cavity at the bottom of here and simply slide the piece of lead into that. So what I'm going to do is I will be placing it over here just to get a basic marker on where it should be. So there, and we'll also mark it on that side. So basically between these two lines, this is where I will create the cavity and then insert the piece of lead. Now I will be placing the piece of lead into the pocket that was created for it. Press it in down as hard as I can and as deep as I can. You can see I went a little bit deeper than was necessary. What I'm going to do is all these small little filings that I have, I am now going to put in here as much as I can. For this, what I usually will use is I'll use the tip of my cutting knife and just squeeze it into all the little pockets possible. You can clearly see there's quite a bit of it actually going into this little pocket over here. So I'll take some more, as much as I can. I want that cavity filled up as far as I can. I will then add a little bit of super glue into it just to get it nice and hard. And after that, I will create a little lid out of the excess balsa that I have. So as you can see, just placing everything in on the sides as much as I possibly can over there. What I will now do is I will take a little bit of super glue, just drip it in there. There we go. So next step is going to be to take this piece of little balsa, shape it exactly the way this is, and put it on as a lid. Let's do that now. Having now created a top little or a small little lid to go over this cavity, what I will do is I will stick it on there, and then I will use my cutting knife just to smooth it out and get it in line with the rest of the lure. So here we go. I'm going to add a little bit of super glue at the top over here, and a little bit of super glue on this small little piece over here. That should be enough. And I will add the piece in. Pretty much like that. There seems to be a little bit of gaps. The fortunate thing about your balsa wood is that it can be compressed. So I'll just make sure to level it off nicely now. You can see it's relatively level. I'll just level off the excess and then I will add a little bit of super glue just around it, just to make sure that no water gets in. Hey guys, just to give you a quick update, I didn't get an opportunity to record this, but what I've done is I have taken some perspex, I have cut into the balsa wood and have inserted the little lip. The idea behind this is obviously to let the lure dive when it is being retrieved. What I am now going to do is I am going to add some super glue onto the balsa wood. The reason for that is that it gives a sealing effect on the lure, and secondly, it also hardens the balsa wood quite significantly, because this balsa is quite soft and it sort of like gives it a hardening effect. So let's get on with that. I have given it some time for the super glue to dry out. It is, to be honest, it's quite an interesting effect compared to your regular balsa wood. Let me give you an idea. That sort of like hardening sound. And the balsa with the super glue on it is a lot stronger. And this is actually something that I saw on YouTube, a guy called Marlon Bates. He does this to strengthen the balsa. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to use a 220 grit sanding paper. I'm just going to sand it off. There are 2 or 3 spots if it's really rough to the touch. The super glue, as much as you might try to spread it as evenly as you can, it's not as effective, so I'm going to sand it down and then I'm going to put my primer on it. So let's get that sorted. Now that I have sanded off the excess super glue with that very fine sanding paper, I mean it's a 220 grit, it's very smooth to the touch, and it still has that hard effect to it. So that came out lovely. So for the next part, very simple, using some good old-fashioned masking tape. And even though on the perspex we basically do have a bit of the cover on there, so it should protect it from the paint or the base coat, but I want to make sure that on the sides that it is covered as well. So I'll quickly put the masking tape over it, seal it off completely, and then take some white spray paint and get that base coat on. The base paint has been painted on or sprayed onto the lure, but you can clearly see that there are some on the edges of here. It's a little bit rough. So the idea is at this stage in time to take a very fine grit sanding paper and just work it down. You can clearly see over there as well the lines or the surface is not 100% smooth and flat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 240 grit sandpaper, sand it down, just make sure that all of those depressions over there and all the little marks are smoothed out fine before I start painting on the colors and putting in the eyes and so forth. As an amateur lure maker, I do not have a airbrush yet. As a result, my wife's nail polish has to do. So what I'm going to do, very simple, I'm going to do a quick test. The idea is to start with a dark top. So I want to put a dark line on the top, then sort of like shade it down a little bit, go onto the gray, and then put a completely silver body on it. So these are the colors that I've chosen. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a quick color test just to see how it would work out. So starting at the top, I would basically have this sort of like dark purple color. The nice thing about this dark purple color, it has got a little bit of a glitter in it. According to this, it is a gel nail polish, shine, last and go from Essence. I don't know if that's an important thing. So the first one over there, this is the purple. The next one that I will put on is a similar one. It's also got a sort of like a bit of a glitter in it. This is the darker blue color. I have to admit I'm quite fond of this color. This is just such a nice vivid blue. So yeah, then beyond that, I will then use this sort of like almost pale gray, no glitter or no shine in it at all. Very neutral color. I think I will use a shade of that just to put sort of like the sideline into it. And then last but not least, this is a different kind of nail polish, Brilliant Shine nail polish, and this is almost a chrome type of effect, very bright silver, almost silver paint or nail polish. So yeah, that's sort of like my sample that I've got going. I think these are the colors that I will end up playing with. You can clearly see them there. A nice bit of a glitter in the purple and in the blue, which is quite nice. This pale gray color I'm reconsidering, but the silver is absolutely brilliant. You can imagine the shine that would give on a good on a lure. So I think that would be the sides and the belly, and I think a combination of these two to basically give me the top. I think maybe some of the blue just to sort of like splatter down the side. Let's see. This is the original template from which I made this lure, and the idea behind it is to basically draw in the gill plate and around the eyes with a permanent marker, something like a Sharpie, and this one had the little dots along the body. I've changed my mind. What I have decided, and this is based on this sort of like color scheme, I have decided to put the dark purple on the back, and then come down in little blotches, shall I say, of the blue. This will basically come down onto the side line over here, and then the side and the bottom belly I have decided that I will do this proper silver on. So what I'm going to start with now is I'm going to put the dark purple on the back, and I am going to paint the body silver, and as I said, afterwards I'll come in and put some details in the blue from the top down, from the ridge or the top of the body, the dark purple. I'll come down into the silver with tiny little blotches, hopefully getting that that effect of the different scales on the fish. So let's see how that works out. And there you go. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that like button, subscribe, and the bell as per usual. And if you've got any tips, any ideas, anything additional that I might have missed out on, please drop it in the comment section.